September earthquake, otherwise I would have been extremely busy. Yeah. Alright. This is the former site of south of the border Mexican restaurant and Dennis Moore auto electrician on Colombo Street in Christchurch. And both these businesses were demolished after the September 4 quake, and they remained like this for some months. And, you know, the city had a problem then. There was privately owned land that was vacant for an unknown period of time. There's nothing we could do to speed the rebuilding process up. The landowners are obviously waiting for resource consents and insurance payments and plans and all that. So Gap Filler was formed around about October last year, and we went to the landowners and we said, "Will you use your land?" And they said yes. And that's our incredibly simple and obvious idea that's behind Gap Filler. There's a space. Use it. This is the same site, 24 hours later, done with pretty much no money. Very cheaply, we had some astroturf, furniture, plants, and the idea was that it was public space. So people could come and eat their lunch or have a picnic and use it. And so we decided also that we wanted to involve lots of different artists. So we asked some bands to come, and Frankenstein that this project was, by the end of it was 2 weeks, we had 31 bands. We screened 12 films on the wall of the site. The Christchurch poets came, and we had other performance, tableau puppetry and some circus. Now, all of the performers performed for free. They wanted to do something to help their city. And it was amazing. We had more than 1,000 people come. This is another sort of intervention. On Worcester Boulevard, right in the central city, we turned this space into an outdoor gallery by posting up a photo exhibition. And these 3 projects I've shown you, we just did them. We didn't have money, but we wanted to do something to capture some imagination and to demonstrate what you can do with vacant sites. Okay, so after the February quake, we're facing, it's a totally different situation. We're not just talking about, a gap here and there. We're talking about redesigning an entirely different city. And that's incredibly exciting, and a lot of ideas around it at the moment, but I don't think anyone would dispute that that's a long way away. So what's going to happen between now and then? And what are we going to do in the interim with all this space? What are our temporary responses going to be? Because I think the temporary is often seen as a hassle, right? It's a necessity, we've got to do something, so let's do something. But I actually think the temporary offers us a lot of opportunities to be innovative and to take risks and learn. Because in the press it was reported that central city retailers were given 3 options for a temporary structure from which to trade after February. Marquees, shipping containers, and warehouse space. We can do better than that. We can be more imaginative. Paletten Pavilion in Germany, pallets, very low cost to make this. And when you're done with it, there's very little waste. And it's beautiful. This is a design awaiting resource consent for a September earthquake gap, privately owned, on Riccarton Road. And the metal barrels that you see will create an entranceway to block the noisy road sound away. And then inside is a public green space. So 2 really innovative ideas and pretty low cost, really. And the Section 8 bar in Melbourne is a really good example of the temporary. Now, the bar itself is in a shipping container, and every year it goes to a different part of Melbourne. And every year, different creative people create the landscape that you see around it. And, if you're in Melbourne for 24 hours, chances are you're going to go here, or your friends are going to take you here. Because it's interesting, it's different, and it's temporary. And property developers in Melbourne are desperate for this bar to come into their area because they know what kind of buzz it will bring. So what Gap Filler is proposing is that we get a bit more creative with the opportunities we have for the temporary here. And what we do now, the risks we take, we might fail, but we're going to take some risks, learn some new things, do some interesting things, and that will help influence the future city that we have. Because this is a permanent temporary bar. Christchurch had problems before the earthquake, right? The council was trying to lure people into the city to revitalise it. And Cathedral Square's been redeveloped a number of times, Cashel Mall, Stewart Plaza. And the council spent a lot of money and time guessing, educated guesses, but they're guessing at what's going to work to revitalise the city. And they spend a lot of money implementing permanent plans, and then, a decade later, another permanent plan. So you're putting in, fountain. The new fountain is great, but we need more than that. People need a reason to come to the city. And Newcastle in Australia offers us a really good example of how a temporary initiative is being supported by a permanent framework. So Newcastle had an earthquake of its own in '89, and fast forward a couple of decades, you've got a declining city mall with lots and lots of vacant retail space. So Renew Newcastle is a creative initiative, grassroots idea like Gap Filler, and they saw an opportunity with this space. So they put emerging creative businesses and artists in these vacant retail spaces, rent-free, right? In the interim, the property owner or landlord can search for a permanent tenant, but the space is being used. And this has had an amazing effect on Newcastle. And some of these businesses became so financially successful, they were able to take on the rent. So you've got this initiative, and it's done amazing things to revitalise Newcastle. The council now funds it, as well as the arts funder in New South Wales. So you've got a permanent structure for the temporary. And it's like planting a garden. If you give young creative businesses a seed to plant, they're going to stick around to watch it grow. And gardens are a great example of how you get people connected to a space. And Greening the Rubble is another group, like Gap Filler, that is using private land for temporary green space. And you use volunteers and get them involved. And by doing this, you give people a stake in their city. They become custodians of this land. They want to see what's going to happen. And it's about people, right? I mean, that's what we keep getting told. And I've seen from doing these projects, I see the effect this has on people, from the landowners that turn up and see 100 people watching a film on their land, to the volunteers who get involved making these things happen, and the artists, to my favourite, the people walking home at night who just think, what on earth are you doing there? It's amazing. And all of these organisations and people have helped to make this project happen. And this is testament to the community spirit of this project and the stake that they have in it. And we thank them. The arts has a lot to offer at a time like this, but a lot of artists and creative people are leaving because they've lost their studios, their theatres, venues, workspaces, galleries, and there are not many jobs for creative people and artists right now. So one of the things that we are doing is we're supporting the arts, and the arts community is supporting us in turn, because we're offering a space, venues. We can connect artists with audiences and provide them with a place to work. And people that are reassured by the arts, that have been missing it, have come to these sites and have a wonderful experience, because there is something deeply symbolic about turning an ex-demolition site into a space for temporary creative projects. And space, vacant space, whether it's gaps or whether it is vacant retail space, is part of any city. And using it should happen, regardless of whether there's an earthquake or not. And the Tivoli Theatre in Cathedral Square, this was demolished in 2006, and that gap sat there, beautiful as it was, disused until 2010, when it was turned into a Wilson's car park. And one of the reasons for this is because landowners have no incentive to give their land over to temporary projects. So what we are proposing is that the council offer perhaps a rates rebate to landowners who are willing to do this. Imagine, off-road tenpin bowling, a community garden, book exchange, outdoor dance hall, urban beach. There are so many possibilities. And Gap Filler is more than just about the arts and feel-good earthquake responses. This is about how we understand space in our city and how we use it and how we give people a stake in the city now, as it is now. So I'm sure many of you have ideas, and we would really like to hear what they are because we can help make them happen, and it's very exciting. So please get in touch, and thank you very much.